Last time on the Just Create SMP, I created this ridiculously big storage system with 120 vaults in it, which is ridiculous. It's also empty, which I would like to change today, but in order to do that, I don't want to move my items over here until I've got a workshop in place up here. So my plans today are to build a ridiculously large workshop up here, but I don't know if I'm going to get all the way through it because I'm going to be lacking a lot of materials. Particularly, gold, which I've hardly got any of at all. Redstone, which it looks like I've got a reasonable amount, but that's going to be eaten up in no time. Brass, I've hardly got any of. Zinc, I've hardly got any of. And andesite alloy, I can probably make quite a lot of. The only thing I've got in decent quantities is iron. And as we take a leisurely stroll around my existing workshop, you'll notice that quite a lot of these things have brass things on. And brass is pretty expensive. Oh, I didn't mention I've also got hardly any copper. Looking over here, I have 24 stacks of copper ingots. The other thing I could really do with doing before I start building that big old workshop is probably to put in an elevator into this so I don't have to keep trying to fly up and down that tiny little hole because it's quite painful and it's costing me a lot of rockets. So I think that's where we're going to start, in which case I'm going to basically have to demolish quite a lot of the floor up here so that we can have a nice big elevator that'll take us all the way down to where we need to go. So I've brought a few building blocks and some create bits with me, and the first thing I need to do is get power up into this room here. And thinking of this room, I think that where I've got my little bits and bobs over here would be a nice place to actually have access to our storage system and all of the things we're crafting as sort of a central hub point later on. So I don't want to get rid of any of the floor around here, and we want to make sure we've got plenty of space to access that. But I do want the hole for the elevator to be much bigger than this, because if we hop down to these floors, you can see we've got a whole chunk space there where the elevator's got to meet up with, so we're going to have to build out this floor a little bit, and then down there we're going to be parking on top of that water. Now, that could be interesting. So let's hop back up to the top and do a bit of the old smashy. And there we go. We got a nice big hole that goes all the... I don't think I've centered it. Have I not centered it? Fly up from here. Yes, I have. It just looked weird from the edge. Anyway, yes, we've got a nice big hole. I've put some copper grates in there with some sea lanterns behind to make it nice and light. And now we just need to build an elevator on it. And get that power up here. Let's do that next. So I'm going to go over to the side here. Yeah. And power. Here's one I made earlier. It's very slow power, though, because that's coming directly off the thingy-mabobbies. Thingy-mabobbies? Yeah, the thingy-mabobbies. But we can use it. Just need to grab one of those, throw in a little bit of chain conveyor up to the surface, cover up the hole in the floor, stick a speed controller on, and then we just need to get that up to the top without it looking too awful. Do you know what? I might move that and just have that going all the way up. Then we can go all the way up this little crevice we've got here. We can even power the little fan that's on the back of the building. And then we can come across and put the speed controller up here. And with that there, we can pop on our elevator pulley so that when we build the elevator, that'll go down and connect to it. Excellent. And we want this going on nice and quickly. And we don't want this looking too weird. Let's give it some support. That'll do for now. Right, okay. The elevator base then. I want it to fill this entire circle, and I want it to basically just be a flat platform that we can stand on and go up and down, which will look a bit strange when we've got the elevator pulley just sort of dropping down onto the center of it. But I can't do it from underneath unless we were to use sort of mechanical pistons and make a different type of elevator altogether. But if we did that, then it wouldn't fit because of all of the stuff down there. So we're just going to have to see what we can come up with and make do. First of all, though, we are going to need an elevator contact in the floor on each level so that the elevator knows when it's reached its destination. So I'm going to throw that in on this side here, around about there, and then have another one facing that way, and they're connected. And I think for design, I'm just going to throw a ring of the copper grates around the outside. Oh, you didn't have any copper? Well, I had copper grates left. Shush. Leave me alone. A little bit of polished tuff on the inside of that. And I guess the rest of it we can do out of the tuff bricks. No, I can't. I want this to look more industrial. Forget that. Forget the tuff. Elevators made out of tuff is stupid. We'll have industrial iron blocks in the center. And around this point here, we'll throw on the weathered industrial iron blocks to sort of blend from that copper color. Might even just pop those in the corners as well to make that look a little bit more circular there. Now we've got an elevator base. Right, on top of this then, we'll have a support so that we can have a roof on it, which I don't really want, but we'll have to for the elevator pulley. In each of these corners. Throw the elevator controls on, I'll say about there. And then I'm going to put some temporary blocks around the edge. And then I'm going to throw on some copycat boards with the copycat grate and see if we can make this look like a little barrier. It might look a bit much. I think andesite bars might have looked better in those, but I don't think I can put andesite bars in the copycat boards, and I don't have any to test with. Quickly nip home, out, quickly nip back. Now, remove some of those, see if those will go on. No, they won't. I might just leave it as the raw copycat material because that does look like quite a nice little barrier block. And now we need something for the elevator pulley to attach to. And I'm thinking, ideally, if we just plonk a few more temporary blocks on the top of here, grab a few more of these copycat boards and throw them in there, maybe with a bit of texture, get rid of that. And then throw some more of those on the outside like this. Maybe with the weathered iron blocks. How does that look? A bit weird. What if we totally wrap the top of this in these things? That doesn't look too bad. I just want it to be like a service elevator rather than just a bog standard square rectangle thing. So for now, while this is good enough, I'm going to glue it all together, assuming these blocks will actually glue because they do have to technically be connected. So let's just do our best. And I also need to remember to connect the redstone link to everything as well. So let's just glue that on quickly and then pop that block back. And I believe that should all be glued together now. So if I come up here and click on that, it'd help if I spun it round first and then click on that. There we go. It's actually connected. That's good then. This is lit up, so that's good, but we've got no other floors to go to. So I need some more redstone contacts further down. So the redstone contact is here. We'll need to go there. There we go, that worked. And then for the next one, it will need to go, geez, there. Yes, that works as well. Right, let's just name this storage, this one workshop, and this one entrance. Okay, let's see if it works. If we go to this and we go there, we can go to workshop. It is moving down and it does line up. That's good. We do obviously need to build the floor out to make sure it meets. And if we go down to storage, there we go. It's landed down here nicely as well. Lovely. Oh, that worked out nicely. It's just a shame about the weird elevator pulley thing that goes all the way to the top, but let's not worry about that. Let's go back to the top, grab some building blocks, and then make it meet up at the other levels. And realistically, I don't think we need much more than this. All I've done for this layer here is just to add on this little walkway with some rail either side, and then on the floor above, I've not done a great deal more than that. This one didn't have anything around the outside, so I've put a barrier around the whole side, and there we go. Now we've got an elevator that goes to every floor. My only concern is, if I actually put my brightness down to what the game wants it to be, my elevator is going to be very dark, and I'm a little bit concerned, even though this is technically an entity, that we might end up getting things spawning on it. So I'm going to take it back to the top. I'm going to disassemble it, but oh my goodness, how dark it is up there. I should probably get some lanterns. And I think the first thing I'm going to do in this room is add in some girders at this layer here, where we've got this sort of transition to the other type of block. Throw some supports down into the corners. And then before we get to the window on each side, I'm going to put another one of those with a shaft around about there with a bracket on it and a lantern. I'll do the same thing over here, just like that. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing on these sides as well. And I think I should probably add some there where the door is too, and possibly at the back of the room. Now we need to come up to the top and just add a few in the center around here just to light that up and make sure nothing spawns up there. And then I need to disassemble my elevator, and I'm just going to add a lantern or two under here. So I'm just, oh geez, I don't know how I'm going to do that now. I tell you what we'll do. Oh, it's gone invisible. Oh geez, it'll be all right. Let's get rid of those ones on the corner and just do exactly what I've done up there, but on the corners. Now I just need to make sure I've actually glued those lanterns on. And technically, once this is a contraption again, these lanterns shouldn't actually emit any light, but it'll make me feel better. Okay, let's turn it back into a contraption and find out what happens with the lights. There we go. It is a contraption again. The lights are technically still on right now, which is a good sign. Let's go down to the next level and see if the light comes with us. but it seems to. It's sort of maintained its light level, but I've got a feeling if I actually check the light levels here, they're not going to change. No, they don't. So technically, there's very little light on here at all. So yeah, they're not actually creating any light, but you can see the light in the game, which is kind of strange, but there you go. So there we go. We've now got a fully functional elevator that goes all the way up and down. The only thing I need it to do now is to be able to call it from the different floors, because obviously if I'm at the top and this is down at the bottom, let's just send that down to the bottom without me. Now I've either got to float down there or I'm going to have a bad time getting down. So this is where we need redstone links and some buttons. On each one of the redstone contacts, I'm going to throw on a redstone link. I'm going to put that in receive mode and I'm going to give it the red wall, signifying that this is my workshop area, and a redstone contact. Oh, that's, oh geez, no, I need to do a different one for each floor, don't I? You moron. Huh. Well, that can be red wall and a redstone contact. So now, if I put that on there with red wall and a redstone contact and a button, and press the button, that should call the elevator. There we go. It worked. Now you just need to do that on the other floors with different ones and probably do a better job of making that button slightly less disguised. I also need to do something with the fact that the redstone link on this level is just floating in midair. We should really have that disguised somehow. I'm not sure I'm going to do it yet. We'll figure that out later as we start building in this area. It seems though this is going to be a workshop area. I guess let's have red wall and a wrench. I can't give it a wrench. That's annoying. Okay, well, how about red ball and a clipboard? No. Oh, no, it's okay. I didn't know I could copy and paste settings with a clipboard. That's news to me. Right, I don't want to use that then. So any items I've got I can actually use that signify workshop? No, I'm going to go and get from upstairs. Do you have any workshop style items, my friend? A cogwheel. Okay, so you can go on there. And for now, because we don't have any infrastructure in here, I'm just going to plonk this on the floor just so that I remember what it is. And now we can call that elevator back. And then at the bottom level, we need to have a vault on the redstone link. And I haven't got any of those with me, so I've got to go home again. A vault and a bit of red wall. So there we go. A fully working, complete elevator that takes us exactly where we want to go, wherever we need to go there. Now it's just time to have a bit of a tidy up here, and I will do something at some point with this room up here. It's not just going to end up being a big old empty room. And like I say, I do want my storage system to actually output to here and allow me to input from here as well. And in order to do that, we're going to need a system to be able to get packages up here. And we're going to need somehow to get those chain conveyors up here, and that's tricky. See, I could use belts and chutes and things to move the packages, but that would be ridiculously slow. So what I need to do, and I also need to get them up here, is find a better way of getting my chain drives to change between the different levels of this building without just going straight through the floor like that one is. I mean, we are going to have to use angles, but I'm going to have to make it look a lot better than that. Speaking of looking a lot better, I need my brightness back. It's too dark. Ah, that's better. So a little while later, I've been a little bit busy. As you can now see in our main area, I now have a system to actually get items out of our vaults. Not that there's any items in there at the minute. And I can also put them back into the vaults by putting things in here and clicking the button, and that'll send them down into the system. I've added two of these here. Our first one is basically what I'll be using to actually bring things to this chest, and this other one I'll be using to send things to smelters and presses and things like that. And the advantage of having two is that this one's always going to set to FNT receive, which is this chest, and this one can be set to anything I like. And if I remember to use the correct one, then I won't be accidentally sending all of the things I want to appear in this chest to be smelted, which I do quite often in my other workshop. The way all this works is relatively simple, although I'm going to have to break a couple of things to show you. Behind this, we've basically got our stock tickers and a couple of frogs sat on some packages, and right behind that, we've got a couple of chain drives coming in, which if I put all this back together again and run outside and round the back, you go, hello, spider. It's nice to see you. What a lovely day to be a spider. Right, yeah, round the back, we've got basically the chain conveyors running down into the ground where I've actually made some space for them to go down. You don't have to. They'll happily go through blocks, but I thought it looked nicer. Ah! No, no, no! You little monster! I ran away! Rude. Anyway, hopping back down here, you can see these come to these ones, and then they fall down here, and they come into our workshop level, which then connect to these, and then I've put chain conveyors absolutely everywhere around the entire room, interconnecting all of the floors, allowing us to basically transport packages anywhere we need. And as you can see, these ones then connect down to these ones, which then connect through the floor down to these ones, which go to our vault level, and they connect all the way around this level over to our input section, which means everything's just about ready to start filling up this storage system, apart from the fact that I haven't even started work on a workshop yet, and I don't want to move my items down here until I've done that. There is one more thing that I need down there, however, and that's a whole bunch of levers. And I need these levers basically in order to fix my little input vault that we put in, that's going to be sending all of the items to the other vaults down in the vaulty storagey bit down there. Vaulty storagey bit down. Oh, shut up. Why do you always question everything I say? Look, my brain, it's words and things, and they're hard and stuff. Basically, this bit down here, I've got to put levers on every single one of these frogs, otherwise they're not going to actually do anything at all in terms of taking items out of these vaults and sending them over to the other vaults. So there we go. That's that side done. And now I just need to do this side. And there we go. They're all ready. So we can now test it. So what I'm going to do is grab some create bits like this andesite casing, chuck it in there, press the button, and then free cam to follow it along. Should see the package coming down here. There it goes. It should come down then to the next level and go around here. It gets sucked in by that frog. It should come out of one of those, go out of that frog there, and then go into our create storage system, which is over there. And it should come all the way down and go into there. And it did! It was very fast. It was hard to see, but let's just go and make sure it is actually in there. And if we look inside of this vault, you can see there are 64 andesite casing. It worked! But can we get it back out again? That's the question. Let's hop back up to the top. Click on this little fella. There you go. You can see they're in there. Click on receive, and we should hopefully, if we go down with a bit of free cam, see all that happening in reverse. There we go. It's already going up to the second layer. That should then, yeah, then come up to the third layer. And it's already done it. They're there. Amazing. Oh, good. So we've got a fully functioning storage system. All we need now is a workshop. I've been promising that for ages. I know. It's taken so long coming. But unfortunately, peeps, I can't make a workshop. I don't have enough materials. What the monkeys is this thing floating in midair? I know we got some weird, like, visual glitches going on with track and stuff, but I don't know. I don't even know what that's supposed to be. That's weird. Huh. Anyway, I was coming down to my iron farm because this thing has been running away in the background generating an absolute ton of iron. But of course, as usual, there's a problem. Every time I log out, even though the chunks on here are all loaded by this power loader, all of the packages end up just getting stuck on here. And that's not just happening in here where the iron farm is, it's going all the way back into our storage system, which is causing me a little bit of a headache. You see, all of the chunk... Ow, stop it. You see, all... Hello, dog. You're supposed to be in the minecart. Anyway, all of the chunks in this area are supposed to be loaded as well. And up to this point here, which is the chunk border, that should all be loaded. So all of these packages should be loaded. So I don't see any reason why this train is having an issue, or why my iron farm's having an issue actually processing all of that cobblestone while I'm not online. But yeah, every time I log out, like overnight, which is when this happened, all of these back up. And it's nearly 1 p.m. in the afternoon today, and this thing has been running through trying to gobble up the rest of it. And as a result, I've had to put a fail-safe in here to basically say, if this has got cobblestone in it, lock this timer so it can't request any more, just in case I forget to turn it off when I log out, which I do every time I log out. So hopefully that'll solve the problem, but I'm going to have to wait here for a while for all of that to filter through so that I can move on with what I want to do next. And what I want to do next is gold. So we're going to need red sand or soul sand. I also want to do copper, so we're going to need dripstone. And I want to do zinc, so we're going to need tuff. So while I'm waiting here for all of this iron to go through, I'm going to come up with a plan. Well, I've been busy, basically coming up with a factory plan to take cobblestone and do lots of things with it, as well as a little bit of lava in order to generate a zinc and gold and copper. And this is what I've got. Basically, we're going to take our cobblestone from our existing cobblestone, crush that down into some gravel, and we're going to take that gravel, crush that down into some sand, which is going to give us clay and flint. We've already got some flint from our iron farm, which we're then going to combine with the flint we get from this into a little vault, and that's just going to stay there for a minute. We're going to wash our sand down we get from crushing the gravel into clay balls, and we're going to combine that with the clay balls that we get from crushing the gravel into a little vault here, and that can stay there for a minute. We're also going to take some gravel, take it over here, press it with a little bit of lava and some of that flint that we've collected, and then we're going to turn that into andesite. From that andesite, we can then add in a little bit of cobblestone and lava in order to make tuff, and then from that tuff, we can crush it to get zinc. That's one of the things we need done. Gold and copper, however, a little bit more of a squirrely mess. From our little vault of clay, we're going to press that into some clay blocks, cook that into some terracotta, crush that into some red sand, and then we're going to grab some of that flint, combine it with the red sand, and turn that into granite with a little bit of help of some lava. We're then going to take the other half of that red sand and wash that into gold, and that gives us gold. And then with that granite, we're then going to mix that together with a little bit of lava and a little bit of cobble to make some dripstone. We're going to crush that down to get some more clay, which we can then send back into the system, and some copper. So all in all, we're probably going to end up with a very small amount of each one, because that's a lot of processing to go through, and most of these things are based on percentages, i.e. you don't get 100% out from what you put in. But I think we should be able to turn that into a relatively simple factory that we can then produce all of those things from. How hard could it be? What could possibly go wrong? Geez, now I'm going to design that factory in this world. This is the iron farm we've got, and I'm thinking we could probably do something similar to that to start with, to get us a whole bunch of gravel, and then then do other things with that. I'll be back in a minute. A little while later, and I have something in place that does a quarter of the things that we need it to do. This machine here makes red sand, and it makes 18,219 red sand per hour. And I didn't even know you could do this, but you can put display links on funnels and actually get their output in terms of items per hour, per minute, per second, and the total that have gone through. Fancy. So this works in a similar way to my iron farm design. We've got cobblestone at the top being ground down 9 stacks at a time into gravel, which then gets ground down 8 stacks at a time this time into sand and clay and flint. The clay gets spat out and put on this bottom belt and shoved into this little vault over here. The flint gets spat out and shoved into that little vault there, and the rest of the sand all gets washed through this little washing machine into clay balls, and they also go into this vault here. So we're basically just generating a whole bunch of clay and a reasonable amount of flint. If the flint overflows, we've got a little overflow system here so that we don't back up all of the system. That gets burnt in lava. The clay balls come through here, get pressed into clay blocks. They get smelted into terracotta. They go into here, then they get crushed into red sand, and that's how we're generating red sand. So for 9 stacks of cobble at a time, we're only actually getting around about 4.5 stacks of red sand per minute. And considering from that, there's only a 12% chance of getting 3 gold nuggets from it. That's not a great deal of gold. And the other problem is we also need to split some of this red sand off into our granite making machine. And that's why we're going down from 9 stacks of cobble to 8 stacks of gravel, because the other stack of cobble needs to come off and go into the andesite making machine. So yeah, this is gonna not produce very much gold at all. So I think I need to go bigger. But before we get into that, there are of course more than one way to get gold nuggets. At the minute, we've been going down the washing red sand path to give us a 12% chance of getting 3 nuggets, but of course we can wash soul sand, which gives us a 2% chance of getting 1 nugget. But it's dramatically easier to make soul sand than it is red sand, and you get a whole bunch more soul sand back for the amount you put in. So this system behind me basically does exactly what that system over there does. It's got 8 lots of crushing wheels, crushing 8 stacks of gravel at a time. They then get turned into sand. They then get haunted into soul sand. That then gets washed, and then we get the output here, which is just turning all of those nuggets into ingots. And you can see that gives us a whopping 16 ingots per minute, or 0.31 ingots per second, which isn't bad, and in an hour we'd have over 1,000 of them, and realistically there's a lot less going on here. But now that I've done that, I decided to go back over to the red sand and just turn all of that into gold rather than worrying about granite, and as you can see, that gives us 5,000 ingots per hour, which is substantially faster than doing soul sand. So I don't need to worry about a soul sand setup at all. We do need to worry about this one, and I do need to make it better. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do next. Oh geez, I was just spent ages doing that. I gotta do. Oh geez, what a waste. I thought it would be faster. What a waste of time. Well, I'm not gonna lie, a few hours have gone by, and I have created a behemoth that does loads more gravel and cobble and sand than the other one, and I've got it all coming down from this pyramid vault. Our cobblestone goes into here. It gets split 2 ways into 18 sets of crushing wheels. Then that gets crushed down further into sand through 18 more. The sand goes into this vault, vault along with the clay and the flint, and this vault as well. Underneath here there are washing machines that wash all of that sand, which then gets turned into clay, and that clay then comes out of there and over here and gets split through these funnels into 11 different presses, which are constantly running. Those presses are turning all those clay balls into clay blocks, which get gathered into this vault, which then spit them out through this little lava washing machine, turning them into terracotta, where they come out of here, get turned into red sand, get washed, and then get turned into the gold nuggets and the dead bushes. Once that's happened, they get pressed, and then I spit it all into lava, because this is just for testing. And I expect this, because it has 18 sets of crushing wheels as opposed to just 8 over there, to produce significantly more gold. However, whilst our red sand is hovering around about 60 to 70,000 depending on how that ticks over, and the other one is only at a mere 17,000, our gold amount that we're getting, this is counting the ingots coming through, is only 5,500. Whereas on the other one, it is 4,500 to 5,000, depending on how it ticks over. As a result, according to these numbers, that means that this particular farm here, the small one, is generating gold ingots at the 30% ratio to the amount of red sand we're generating. However, over here with our 50,000 and our only 6,000 ingots, the math doesn't add up at all. That actually works out at about 6 to 8% efficiency getting our gold ingots from our red sand, which means according to my little devices that are calculating all of this farm is producing way more gold ingots than is possible. So I don't believe it. I don't believe these signs for a second, and I don't trust these are doing a very good job of calculating things at all. So I'm going to do my own tests. I'm going to time it, which means I need a timer. Okay, I've modified the little lava pit on both of the farms so that instead of throwing all of the gold ingots into lava, we're just running them across these drains into this vault that's got a threshold switch in it. When the threshold switch gets to 10 stacks of items, it's going to send out a signal, which we're going to receive all the way over here on this little lamp here. So this lamp signifies that farm over there, and this lamp signifies this farm here. Exactly the same thing's going on in here. I've just inverted the redstone link signals so that we know which one's which, and here I've got a little lever which is going to turn on both of the farms. As soon as I flick the lever, I'm going to start my timer, and when the lamps go off, I know which one's reached 10 stacks the quickest and how long it's taken, and then I can work out actually how many gold ingots we're getting. So without further ado, in 3, 2, 1, go, and stop, because it's going to take me ages to get 10 stacks worth. So let's start this again, and let's, instead of having 10 stacks, we'll do 4. Just get everything out of there that's already in. Do the same thing over here. Let's not forget to turn that one to 4 as well. And that means I should only be waiting about 4 minutes and not 10. Let's start again. In 3, 2, 1, go. Well, I've waited over 13 minutes, and while this farm finished in just under 5 minutes, this one is still going, and according to the threshold switch, there's only just over 2 stacks of items in it. So I think the signs behind me might be a little bit wrong, but I want to do a little bit of a different test because I don't think that was entirely fair. I have upgraded the test setup significantly, for no reason other than I thought it would be fun. We've got 2 more displays and even some Nixie tubes. These displays show how many ingots are actually inside these vaults using a little smart observer with a display link that just runs to those. So I can see at a glance exactly how many ingots are going in, and I know when it's reached a stack. These Nixie tubes are actually counting how many items are in this vault, which is being fed just from this as a timer. We've got a timer behind there that's going to put an item in there every 20 ticks or 1 second, so we can see the time on here. So that's basically my seconds counter. That's currently locked with this little redstone link here, and that's controlled by this. So when I flick this lever, the timer will start, both of the farms will turn on, but when the threshold switches reach 2 or more stacks, these lights will turn on and their individual farm will turn off. So then I can actually check exactly how many's in each one. So as soon as I flick this lever, that should start counting, although Nixie tubes do have a bit of a delay on it, so it's not going to be entirely accurate, so I'll use my stopwatch as well. But here we go. Go. How long is it going to take to get 2 stacks of items? And you can see the 18 cobblestone crushing system is absolutely trouncing the one with only 8. And we're now 3 minutes in, and the 8 Cobble Crusher farm still only got 48 ingots in it. So I don't really see the point in continuing the test much longer. We can clearly see that this one is the absolute winner, and that these display boards are completely wrong. According to this, it's generating nearly 2 gold ingots a second. And we know that's not right because it's actually generating 1 in every 1 and a bit seconds. So how many does that actually mean we're getting per hour? It's about 3,178 per hour, which is significantly less than that, but it's plenty, because that's nearly 50 stacks, or like 2 sugar boxes in an hour, which doesn't seem like a great deal, but when this thing's just running in the background generating plenty of gold, well, I'll have plenty in no time. I am disappointed in these little sensors though, not being even remotely accurate, but there we go. Anyway, that's still only half the job done. I've then got to divert some of that red sand off, as I said, and some of the gravel off, as I said, in order to do all of the other bits. So I'm going to be a little while getting all of that in place next. And so, a very long time later, I've made Spaghetti Town. It works very nicely, and it produces everything I want. I've got 2 display boards here showing us the output of the gold, the zinc, and the copper, and these are all the materials it's generating as well. As before, we've got the system that takes the cobble and turns it into the sand, and turns that into clay balls, into terracotta, and into red sand, and this is where everything changes. The red sand were then split in 2 ways. The majority of it is coming along this belt into this little storage vault here, where it's just getting washed and turned into gold, and dead bushes, but they're getting burnt in lava. 3 out of the 64 are going into these tunnels here, where they're getting split into these basins here, which are producing our granite. So we're basically getting 3 red sand on that side, and on this side we're taking some of the flint that we got from these vaults. Rather than burning it in lava, I'm now taking it across this elevator into this little vault here, down into this vault here, where we still get way too much of it, so I've actually got a pit of lava underneath. Once it gets overly full, that comes out of here, goes into there, gets split 3 ways, and helps to make our granite, which then pops out down there, goes into that little vault there, and then comes straight back out again to then be mixed with some more cobblestone, which we're bringing over using this frog with a little factory gauge on there, and we're sending cobble in there, granite in there, pumping in a whole bunch of lava, and that is generating us the dripstone, which then just pops off here and goes into there. The dripstone then comes out of there, goes squirrely round here, gets crushed in there, and produces our copper. But it also produces clay. So the clay then hops off this belt as the copper gets pressed into ingots, joins the belt again, then goes over here and then goes back into the start bit so that it can be used all over again. And then the ingots just go into there. The gold nuggets get pressed into that one and go into there. And then the other one we're doing is Tuff. And that's a squirrely mess to get to Tuff, because Tuff all starts somewhere over here, if I remember correctly. We've got a cobble coming in. That's getting crushed into gravel. Over here, we're using some more of the flint and that gravel to make andesite, which gets stored in there. The andesite then gets mixed with even more cobble to make the tuff, and then that goes all the way along there, underneath there, into that vault, where it then comes out, gets crushed, and then goes straight into there as zinc. And all of that took a lot of doing, a lot of head scratching, a lot of confusion, and a lot of trying to figure out why certain things weren't happening the way I expected them to, but it all works quite nicely. So let's turn it on and see how it goes. If I flick that lever there, it'll start allowing it to call for cobblestone again. That's going to start going in, and hopefully in a couple of seconds we'll see all of that starting to kick off as the red sand comes through here and basically starts off the process. And while that red sand is producing, don't forget this flint that we're producing over here is coming out and generating the andesite that we're creating so that we can make the tuff, which is already being produced. It's already coming down here, and you can see we're already getting zinc ingots occasionally just flying through here and going into there. Look, we've got 1 already. And as the red sand finally starts to come through, you can see all of this starting to happen as well. It whizzes out of those crushing wheels, gets split this way, those go into there, that makes our granite, and then we get the dripstone, and oh my goodness, it's all just happening. And as you can see, we're starting to produce things. The tuff is coming in a little bit at a time, the dripstone's coming out a little bit at a time, and the red sand, well, the red sand sort of comes in chunks really. As you can see, it comes over 61 at a time, that all goes in there, gets washed, and it might seem relatively slow, but once it's actually got sort of warmed up and everything's in place and it's gathered all the materials it needs, it actually runs runs relatively swiftly for a metal farm. You can see we're producing a whole bunch more gold than we are zinc or copper, and that's because I'm sending the majority of the red sand to be getting turned into gold. As you can see though, this system does generate a ridiculous amount of flint, which is exactly why I had to put that burner on it, and it only produced a tiny weeny amount of copper. Oh, poor copper, so small. Now I can significantly tweak the rates of the things we're getting, because don't forget over here we're splitting our red sand between the granite maker and the gold maker. That was on 3 and this was on 61, and the more I give the granite, the more granite we're going to get, therefore the more dripstone we're going to get, and therefore the more copper we're going to get. So if I really wanted a bunch more copper, I could maybe say, well, let's have 33 of those, because they need to be in multiples of 3, and then 31 of those, and that's going to significantly reduce how much gold we're getting, but it will make a whole bunch more granite, as you can see, and dripstone as well. As for the tuff, well, the tuff is limited by how much cobblestone I'm sending it, and currently I'm only allowing 3 pieces of cobblestone to come through these crushing wheels at a time. But if I allow, let's say, 33 pieces of that to come through at a time, then these little presses are going to be non-stop, meaning we get a whole bunch more tuff, a whole bunch more andesite, and therefore a whole bunch more zinc. But how many golds and zincs and coppers an hour am I getting? There's only one way to find out. Let's stop the system, delete everything I've already got. That didn't take long. Prepare a 10 minutes timer, let's say. And let's just see what we get by the end of it. And there we go, after 10 minutes, it wasn't too bad. That means we've got over a shulker box worth of gold per hour, 30 stacks, and then just 8 stacks of zinc and copper per hour. But as you can see, during that, we accumulated an awful lot of andesite and an awful lot of granite, which means that our dripstone machine and our tuff machine are just not running as quickly as the other ones. And I think the difference there is that in order to make the dripstone and the tuff, that requires mixers, whereas in order to make the andesite and the granite, that requires presses. And I think presses are just way faster than mixers. But that's not a bad thing. Having an excess of andesite will be particularly useful combined with my iron farm, because that means I can now generate andesite alloy without having to go mining. And as for granite, well, it's just a really nice building block, so I don't mind having plenty of that. That said, if I was to slow down how much granite and how much andesite we were making by limiting the resources going into those, we could even that out a little bit and generate a whole bunch more gold. But I'm pretty happy with 30 stacks an hour. That'll do me. A little while later, I've run another test, and this time we got 28 stacks of gold per hour and still just 8 for the zinc and copper. And I was basically adjusting the settings to try and minimize how much andesite and granite we're making to try and maximize how much gold we're making. And it occurred to me there's a much easier way of doing that than just tweaking the settings on all of the filters. Ideally, what we want is to only create as much gravel as we need for making the dripstone, and the same for the andesite and the tuff. And the easiest way of doing that would be to get rid of this vault and just have that granite going straight into the dripstone making machine so it could back up. And once it backed up to this point, all of the red sand would then go to make gold. But there's an easier way of doing that for now, and that is just to lock this funnel here to prevent the granite going in. And the way we're going to achieve that is to monitor how much granite we've got in here with the threshold switch. So I'm going to pop that on there, put a little block above that so that when there's enough in there that it locks that, but it also locks that. That's not ideal. Don't want to lock that one. Okay, we put the threshold switch down here, put that block there, and then put the redstone dust on there instead. And then we set this to lock that when there's more than 3 items in there and unlock it when there's less than 3 items in there. So then we've just got the 3 that we need from there. All right, let me just empty out that granite again. I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the andesite over here. So let's just empty out what we've got, I suppose. Throw on my little threshold switch, stick that there, put that on there, put that on there, and then set that to exactly the same. Now, this might work, or it might slow things down a bit. I don't know yet. Now I need to empty everything else out and run the test for the very last time, I hope. 3, 2, 1, go. Now, as this is running, we should see this blinking on and off every time that it's got too much andesite in there, which should hopefully cause a backup in this system to stop it producing quite so much andesite. And the same thing should be happening over here. It'll take it a little while to back up because we are generating granite and tuff quite quickly, but the longer we look at this, the more it's going to be stopped, and the more the granite will back up, and the more it won't be able to make any more. And once these back up and those back up, we should be then running at an equilibrium. And there we go. Just a couple of minutes in, we're already backing up on red sand, which is exactly what we wanted to see. And the same thing is happening over here on the andesite as well. We can see this is just going through occasionally. The other thing I've had to do is just set these chutes to only allow one item out at a time. Otherwise, we were getting 3 stacks coming out at once, which makes a whole bunch more than we wanted go into this vault at once, which then does keep it locked for a while, but it takes a lot longer to back up. So as a result of that, how's this looking? Yeah, we don't have a big old backup of granite or andesite, and our numbers are probably about this point in the test looking pretty similar, but only time will tell. And there we go, the results are in, and this time we are just over 31 stacks an hour on the gold, which is a little bit of an improvement, and the zinc and copper are pretty much exactly the same, although this time they were 8 point something rather than 7 point something, so it's a slight improvement, although the difference there is more than likely just the random chance we've actually got of generating things as we're processing them. But as you can see, we've got hardly any andesite, hardly any granite, so it's a whole bunch more optimized. But I want that andesite, and I also want to now spend the rest of my life building this on the server instead of in a test world. Hurrah! Schematic cannon. But before we do that, I'm going to have to go and fill in all of the lava so that I can remove this grass and make it properly, and probably not have things like creative vaults and fluid tanks in this system. See you next time, peeps.